for somebody that's just getting into the profession, what advice would you give them?
My advice, and this would hold true for people not even in it yet, is that if you want to make a difference, and if you think about everything around you from your iPhone to the light switch on the wall to your computer to your speaker, whatever it is, and air conditioning matters to you, and the future matters to you, then you should get involved in the business of energy.
Welcome back to another episode of the Real Deal Landman Show. I am Jerris Johnson. Drew Hopkins also here with us. Sometimes we spend a little bit of time and Drew and I talk about utter nonsense, and our faithful listener has to just sit through just mindless dribble for minutes. We're not going to do that today. There is no reason to do that today with the guests that we have today. No dribble today whatsoever. I am so excited to introduce and welcome Nancy McCaskell onto our show. We started doing this show, Drew. Gosh, man, it's been 9 months, something like that.
Yeah.
And from the very beginning, Nancy was a huge supporter of what it was. And I told her, hey, we've got this show, and at one point, we'd love to have you on. And so it's an absolute joy to finally make this happen. So Nancy, welcome to the Real Deal Landman Show podcast.
Yeah, this is it.
You finally made it.
Yeah,
After all of these years.
I
mean, all these years in the business, I do want you to know, Nancy, like I don't normally throw this around, but our guest budget for what we do is pretty staggering. But for us to go 9 months into the show and still have enough money to be able to afford getting you on here,
oh yeah,
I just want to speak just very quickly about that.
Yeah,
So.
well, thanks for that, Drew. And I'm a little disappointed that we're not doing any dribble talk.
Well, we are. We're just going to include you with it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, people would much rather hear your dribble than hear our dribble. Because I don't know, we've already said it. The only thing Drew ever wants to talk about is some TV show that kind of shares the same name of our podcast that's out there. And he's like, have you seen the latest news? I'm like, Drew, I don't care about the latest news. I guess we can start with that. Nancy, did you watch the show? Do you like the show?
I've watched some of the show. I haven't watched all of the show. I needed to watch the show because people were talking to me about the show.
Yes, I know. Yes, so now that you are not technically obligated to watch it anymore, are you going to continue watching it?
I think I'm going to watch the second series. I think I am.
But between both of you, I just want to throw this out there. Does anybody know the actual date of the drop of the first episode of season 2?
I know my wife sent me a link to the article and I deleted the message. But I think I saw November sometime, but I don't.
It's November sometime.
16th.
Yeah. Okay.
So mark your calendars, set an invite for yourself for a meeting. I mean, get the popcorn popped, and it's November 16th. They wrapped the shooting down in the Dallas area from what I saw in early August. And they already put out, I think just a couple of days ago, the first little trailer for season 2. So should be good.
So the problem is that since we started this podcast, like Billy Bob and Allie and John and those other folks, they will not leave us alone. Like they want to come on to the show. And I just thought maybe if I talk less than enthusiastically about the TV show, maybe they will leave us alone and they won't keep hounding us to come on to our podcast here, but it's
very annoying. You're right.
It's crazy.
I mean, you can only hit silence on a cell phone call so many times whenever you see Billy Bob Thornton on the other end. I'm just like,
I can hear him knocking now.
Yeah. For sure.
And the other thing, he keeps trying to trick me. Like he will send me a text message and he's like, hey, Jerris, your car warranty's about to expire. You better get a hold of me. And so I blow it I'm like, I know who this is. And I'm not falling for it again.
I didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday.
That's right. That's right. I know you saw my resume on LinkedIn and you're really excited to hire me, but no, I'm not going to fall for this. I'm not going to call you back so that you can weasel your way onto our show. It's getting old.
When you were watching the show, Nancy, was there anything like, I know we talked to so many of the different guests about what they really liked about it and what they thought was overdone just for TV's sake. But what was something that you saw on there that you might remember that you actually really did, you felt really resonated?
I think what I really did like about it was that it really does talk about, I think we do a lot of that stuff. You know, people say, oh, well, we're not putting out fires. We're not putting out fires, and we're not wearing bags on our heads. But to hear a whole bunch of landmen sitting in a room watching the first episode saying, where's the notary? That was funny to me.
Right.
You know?
That's exactly right.
Gee, that looks like a deal under duress. I like that.
It really was fun. I really did like it for the same reason of getting people together and the talk around the water cooler at the office here, or people just sending a message and being like, what'd you think of this part of it? What'd you think of this part? It got people really, just talking about the business. And that's the main thing.
Yeah. I spoke out at Texas Tech, gosh, I don't know, back in January, and the dean showed up because she hadn't missed a series. She hadn't missed a show, not a minute, not a split second. She loves it and enjoyed it, and the students loved it, and that was a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
Jerris and I were down in Miami for the NALTA conference, and also sharing the hotel with NALTA was a law enforcement convention. So the entire downstairs one night was filled with police officers from all around the nation. And so my wife and I were sitting up at the bar, and we started talking to two police officers, and they were from Massachusetts. And when we were talking to them and telling them where we were from and what we did, one of them perked up and was like, hey, have you seen that Landman show that's on Paramount? And he was like, are you guys Landmen? And I was like, oh man. And the other police officer looked at his buddy and he was like, I wish they would make a show about our line of work. And I was like, there's cops. There's like a million about police officers. And like in the moment, I didn't say anything, but like whenever they got up and walked away, I was just like, that was a different exchange for sure.
They weren't serious, were they?
Absolutely serious. No,
Seriously?
they were the very serious police officers. So it was a fun conversation for sure.
I have had, so I have a hat. I have the original hat that was made for our little podcast here. I don't have the really nice one like you two have.
I have a really nice one.
I have a really nice one too.
Yeah. So mine is the old school one. Mine was the original prototype. But I have had people when I wear it and they see it and they're like, is that affiliated with the TV show? And to which I say, no, the TV show is based on me. And
it is based on our podcast.
That's right. Yeah.
That's a good rumor to spread right there, Jerris. And the fact that you've got the original prototype on eBay in about 20 years, that thing is going to pay for your kids. I mean, that's retirement stuff right there. That's generational wealth.
Why don't you have it on?
Why don't you have yours on? I could ask the same question.
Oh, I don't know.
I
dressed up.
I did too. I have a collar today.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, Nancy, I'm gonna hit you right off the bat with something hard.
Okay.
Are you ready for this? Okay.
All
so
right.
You have had a lot of FaceTime over the past year for your previous role as the president of AAPL, which you're still on that executive committee. But I've seen, different video snippets and things like that. You've been on other podcasts and you've had interviews and obviously media attention from the TV show. What is a question that nobody has asked you yet that they should have asked you?
Gosh, a question nobody's asked me that they should have.
Or what is something that you've been dying to tell people about, but you haven't done it because nobody's asked you that question?
Gosh, you're right. That's a hard question. What does nobody ask me? Nobody's asked me how tall I am. And I think on TV, I look really tall. See, I look tall today, don't I?
You do look tall today. Yeah, I was
Okay.
gonna say.
I didn't know if that was polite or impolite to ask, but what's the official height?
I'm a little over 5 feet tall. When I got interviewed by Sarah Hepola at the Dallas Morning News, we were walking down the steps and she actually asked me, she said, do you mind if I ask you how tall you are? And I turned around and I said, "No, I don't mind." I said, "I'm just under 5'1". And I turned around and I winked at her and I said, "Nobody will ever mistake me for Billy Bob Thornton." I thought she might fall down the stairs.
Nancy, I get asked that same question all the time too of,
How
"Do you
tall are
mind
you?
do you mind if I ask how tall you are?" And I've gone through every iteration of depending on what extensions or what heels
Uh-huh.
I'm wearing, like it's different on day to day, and the joke falls flat sometimes. So I come up with so many other ones, and it's
I know.
just it's
I know.
just it's an ongoing saga for sure.
Yeah.
So
See,
Yeah.
I get the
Yeah.
question all the time as well. People are always asking me, how tall is Nancy?
She looks like Yoda, but how tall is she?
Well, honestly, I don't think anybody really ever thinks about the actual measurement because you have a larger than life presence, in a
true.
room, on a stage. Now, granted, they do have to bring a box out for you to stand on when you're on stage, but once you're on that box, like they feel it.
Commanding presence.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah, there you have it.
so over the past years, you've been able to interact with all kinds of different audiences. What has been your favorite thing to talk about?
My favorite thing to talk about is what we do. That's really important to me. It's important to me because we're talking to other people who do what we do. And I like talking about energy. I like that.
Speaking of like what it is we do, how did you get started doing any of this?
Well,
Where'd you grow up, Nancy? That's what I want to know.
Oklahoma, actually.
What Oklahoma City, Oklahoma?
Born in Tulsa, moved to
Okay.
Illinois for a while, moved back to Oklahoma City, graduated from high school, Oklahoma City.
Okay.
We only talk to small town Oklahoma people.
Yeah,
but
I was
we'll make
really
an
expecting.
exception. Yeah,
I
we were hoping.
don't
for
mean
that.
to push that on, but yeah, I really thought it would be like
No,
small town Oklahoma.
I'm a city girl.
Okay. What school did you go to in Oklahoma City?
Bishop McGinnis.
Bishop McGinnis. Okay. Right
Bishop
down the road
McGinnis.
here.
Right down the road.
Very Chesapeake adjacent.
Indeed it is.
Not bad. And then went to college.
Well, I went to Central State,
Central
which is
State.
now University
UCO.
of Central Oklahoma. Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah, I did a stint. I did 1 year at UCO
you
on
did.
a theater scholarship.
Wow. Well, who
Yes.
knew?
Very
That is
well.
impressive.
Well,
But you
now
didn't-
4
you-
people will know.
Yeah.
You didn't like it?
So it became really obvious to me that was never going to be a profession that I was going to be able to pursue.
Oh.
There was just, I was never going to have the money or the courage or the fortitude to leave Central Oklahoma and travel to, a state or city that I'd never been to, like New York or LA or something like that. I was always going to be relatively picky on the type of material that I would be willing to do. And so between those two things, there was never going to be any kind of future for me. And so it was fun having, that first year of school paid for. And it was interesting taking some of the classes that I took because there was some human psychological elements that were to it that were interesting. But in the end, I just knew it was never going to be something I would be able to seriously pursue. And so,
Sure.
But
Good
you
stuff.
still use those skills today, though, don't you? The skills that you learned in theater?
I would
You're
think so.
like, look, here you are today.
Here
You're a
I am
star.
today. Yeah. That was the other thing is that the professor said, taking a good look at you, we think you would be better suited behind a microphone that most people are going to stream in their cars versus watching anything in person.
So how'd you go from theater to energy, oil and gas?
Wait, this
That's
is
a
your
leap.
interview. No. This is your interview. I'll tell my
No,
story.
it's all of us together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my story was, so after that first year of college, I did a 2-year church mission in Chile. And then when I got home, I needed to decide what I was going to study. I had no idea whatsoever. I had a friend whose dad was a geologist. And one day I was at his house and he was asking me about my future plans. And I halfway expected him to say, well, you should become a geologist. But I guess he thought I wasn't smart enough for that. And he said, you could become a landman. I don't think you could do this, but you could become a landman. And he suggested the program at OU. I enrolled, not really knowing what I was getting myself into. And I was a year through school and I was halfway through my first internship at Continental Resources when it was still headquartered in Enid, Oklahoma. And about halfway through it, I thought, I think this is something I could do and I'll enjoy. And that was it.
Interesting.
But this
here
is an
we are.
interesting profession. Like, people do not grow up saying, I'm going to be a landman when I grow up. Like, I've
No,
never
they
met
don't.
somebody who knew that. Even people who had family connections. And we've had people here on the show and we've said, well, how did you find out about it? How did you get involved? And even for the people who say, well, my dad was in the business or my uncle was in the business. And we always ask, well, did they encourage you to do this? And the answer has always been no. Like,
No.
my family knew it. They did not want me to do it, but I did it anyway. And so it's
Makes
interesting, like, even people who did know about the profession were told not to do it. Most of the people who are doing it had no idea how it existed.
Yeah.
So what's your story then?
Yeah, I didn't either. I was working on graduate degrees in English and philosophy, and that's all I'd done was go to school. And I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. And so I called my folks back in Oklahoma and said, I'm coming home. Got home, couldn't get a job. And my mother said, I heard about this thing called a landman. You get to drive around and do research. This is true. And it's when the one ads are in the newspaper. You know, there's no Google. So I pulled a one ad out of the newspaper from this lawyer in Oklahoma City who said he'd train people to be landman. He hired me.
And what did you
amazing.
start out doing and where was it?
My first gig, so he had this little school. He was really going to teach. He was a title lawyer from Kingfisher, living in Oklahoma City. And he took 8 of us and he said, I'm going to teach you to be landmen. And he talked about deeds and we just sat and listened and took copious notes for a couple of weeks. And then one day we walked in and he said, on Saturday, we're going to Wood County and they're going to open up the courthouse for us and we're going to pull books all day. And that was it. That was it. I loved it. I got to drive around, read stuff. Early in my career, I didn't really talk to people. I just read a lot. That was kind of it.
Just absorb all of it and be able to listen and learn from him and be able to go to those different courthouses. That's excellent experience.
Yeah, I've always said to people, and bless him, he's not with us anymore, but he was one of the smartest people I ever met. But he didn't really like to work real hard. But he would take my ownership reports when I brought them back in, and he said, wow, this is great. And in about 6 months, I was writing his title opinions for him.
Holy cow.
And he would go through them and say, this is wrong and this is right, and this requirement should say something else. It was really great for me.
So how did you make the jump from knowing nothing, going into the field, but then you eventually went into the in-house realm and had a very successful corporate career? So how did that transition happen?
So, I bought leases, I ran title, and one day I think I've told this story before, but one day I'm standing on tennis court at the Warwick Racket Club, Drew, in Oklahoma City. On the tennis court, somebody comes out and says, Nancy, you have a phone call. And I said, a phone call? A phone call? Who even knew I was there? And I went in and I picked up the phone and this guy on the other end of the phone said, Nancy McCaskell? And I said, yes. And he told me his name and he said, I'm looking for somebody to run a due diligence project. And somebody gave me your name. And I'm still standing there thinking, who is this guy calling me at the racket club? And he said, I wondered if you'd want to come down and interview with us. And I said, sure, absolutely. And I said, I can be there first thing in the morning. And he said, first thing in the morning's too late. We're interviewing people at the Skirvin Hotel and you can come down now. And I said, but I have on yellow wind pants and I can't. And he said, well, we're going to decide tonight. So you can either come or not, but we'd like to have you come. We're at the Pinstripes Bar at the Skirvin Hotel. And I said, okay, because I'm hungry and I need the work. And I went down to the Skirvin Hotel and 2 of the largest, I'm got my yellow wind pants and little jacket on, you know. I mean, I'm coming off the tennis court. I walk into Pinstripes Bar and it's filled with men smoking cigarettes and cigars and drinking scotch in their pinstripe suit. And I thought, gosh, what a loser. And but I just think, well, now here I am. But 2 of the largest guys who own the largest brokerage in Oklahoma City are walking out the door, and I'm humiliated all over. You know, they kind of look at me. But I go in and I talk to these guys and they say, wow, that was really great. We talked like 40 minutes about this project. They're going to buy a company out of bankruptcy. And I get it. I leave. I, kind of do the belly crawl out of the Skirvin Hotel. I get in my car. I drive back to Norman, Oklahoma, and I get home and my phone rings. Not cells, big old phone. My phone rings. And another man on the other end of the phone said, "Hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm a lawyer for that other guy, and I need your address." I gave him my address. And he said, "We're delivering 36 title opinions to your house, and they'll be there in about 45 minutes, and we'll see you at 8 o'clock in the morning." And I got the job.
Amazing.
In my little yellow wind pants, I got the job. So
That
anyway,
is
that was a lot of fun.
I hear that, and I feel like that feels like a throwback to did you give that story at, I think, the AAPL Chicago,
Yes.
whenever you spoke there? I thought
Yes.
I remembered. As you were saying that, I was like, "I remember her doing this." I totally remember that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It really speaks, number one, of you going down, doing the interview just on the fly, and I know, I mean, anybody that's seen your extensive just resume and just the accolades that you've received, but that kinda goes back to just was it the Blankenship Award that was like the
It
trailblazer?
was.
Is that
Yeah.
right? Okay. Like, and I'm sure you've talked about it before, Nancy, but you walk into an interview and you're in Pinstripes Bar and it's 95+% men as landmen. You
100%.
100%,
100%.
100%, and here's Nancy. Like, uh, what experience, like, how has this it's been just a emotional deal for you of being such a driving force in a male-dominated profession, and to know what you've done over these last years to really help open it up to so many other people. Like, were you cognizant of that while you were doing this? Did you know that this was kind of just against the grain and, hey, I'm going for it? Or was it something that you look back now on your career and you're like, oh my gosh, like that was way more than I even thought it was?
People say that to me, and I still don't see it. I mean, really, it was kind of the luck of the draw. I walked in and they gave me this job and I worked really hard but I hope I've opened doors. I hope I've made a difference. And I'm sure you guys feel the same way is sometimes when folks tell you things like that, you think, man, who's making that stuff up? And so I'm always so pleased and so honored, but I've always loved working with men. And although I knew they would, early in my career, they would separate, they would go off, they would have dinner. And I was probably better because I stayed in the courthouse and I worked and they left and went to the bar, you know?
And you just kept on
I
doing all the
just
work that
kept
they're, yeah,
I just kept on.
makes
So,
sense.
but I think that's one of the things that's always been really surprising to me. I've had so many mentors and so many people who've been kind to me that, um, I marvel at all of that. I don't feel really very responsible for much of that. I like to hear it, but it's all kind of been an accident.
I I think so much of it is I think a lot with all of our careers is there's a lot of wonderful accidents that take place and a wonderful, what is it, serendipity or whatever, where we're just in the right place at the right time. But I mean, I think anybody that's listened to any one of the speeches that you've given or has met you and talked to you in person, I think they know the hard work that you've put into every single day of your career. And now being able to kind of do it on the mentoring and the serving on boards and really helping the next generation of landmen, I think that is just an absolute testament to the career that you've had. So it's amazing the few times that I've been able to experience just getting to hear you give different presentations and everything. And just like talking to you today, like very humble attitude, but you have absolutely put in a hardworking career. So pretty
Well, it's
amazing.
been it's been a lot of fun. I just think about all the different things that happen, and the nice part about being where I am today is I don't really have anything to prove to anybody anymore. I can just build people up and, you
It's awesome.
know, I think and you guys are almost at the age where you can say, "My only goal in life is to make certain somebody takes my job." That's my job,
Yeah.
is to make certain somebody else takes my job.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fun to that.
I mean, in my case, that's a robot, but that's a different.
Mine too. Mine
Yeah.
too.
Oh, I was getting ready to say something about that. I was like, man, Jerris is already preaching to the choir about how he's going to get replaced.
So your corporate career, how did it continue to progress or escalate?
So that deal in the yellow pants, that deal in the yellow pants turned into the acquisition of 3 companies out of bankruptcy, and it was a big deal. Drew, you've heard that before. And then, like 26, this company I was working for named me their vice president of land. I thought ooh, man, I was there. That was just the greatest thing that ever could be. Only I was a terrible leader. I was a really good landman, but you didn't want to work with me. That's just true.
Hey,
I wasn't good at it.
it's experience, right? We're getting
It
different
is.
experiences. We're finding out what we're good at, and that happens at all stages in a career for sure. So no, that's amazing. So when you were VP of land, which company was that with? Was that Pitt?
Chapman Energy.
Chapman? Okay.
Yeah,
And
Chapman Energy.
where did you go after Chapman?
I left. I was there for about 12 years, and I decided I'd had all the fun in oil and gas I wanted, and I left to teach high school English.
No
And I
kidding.
taught in Arlington, Texas. I taught high school English, humanities, and creative writing, and somebody paid me about 2 cents a day to talk about poetry and literature.
I didn't
High
know.
school
That's
kids.
something I didn't know, and that puts together too. I mean, obviously you would be a great teacher. I mean, every single time you're up in front of a crowd, you can totally tell you've got that teaching just bug in you. So that's great. There it is. That's right.
What was that transition like for you? So you went from being a VP of land. I assume you had people reporting to you, even though you say you weren't a very good leader. What was the difference between managing people in a corporate environment and managing high school kids?
What I was not good at when I was in the corporate environment, that first round, young vice president of land, was I was not at all good with people. And what I learned is I could be very good with people. And I was really good with high school kids who were really volatile and, they wanted to fight back all the time. And how do you get them calm? And how do you stay with the story? And it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me because I learned to listen. I wasn't a good listener. I learned to figure out what people needed to succeed or what they thought they needed. And kids will tell you if you give them a chance. And if you don't listen to them, they're going to be mad for the rest of their lives. And there's no hyperbole there. And so I did that for about 2.5 years. Then somebody called me and wanted me to do some oil and gas, and I thought I've really missed it. But I can still remember, a majority of my kids were seniors, and I can still remember standing behind the screen, moving their little tassels over with their hats and their gowns on, getting ready to graduate. It made me tearful all evening, and it still almost does, just to think about it. And every now and then I'll run into somebody that I taught, and that they even would remember me is just remarkable.
I have been fortunate enough so both of my parents were teachers.
Yay, go
Uh,
you.
history, American and Oklahoma history was my dad, and my mom was first grade. And so they always said, like where we were talking about how did we come up to the oil and gas business, the shortest version is both of my parents were like, you're going to be a teacher. And all of my family was like, you've got that teaching bug in you. And I was like, no, 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 no. I want to do anything but that. Well, in Ponca City, we grew up and ConocoPhillips was there, or Conoco back in the day. And so I saw all of those guys walking around with their suits and ties on, and they looked like they were just prim and proper. And for Ponca City, Oklahoma, that was the highest level of society, and I saw that and I said, whatever they do, that's what I'm going to do. Like,
Yeah.
I want to do that. And they said, well, they're oil and gas. I said, I want to do that. Well, long story short, do oil and gas for a long time, and then got asked by Oklahoma City University to get to be an adjunct professor there and teach
Oh,
energy
I didn't know
course.
that.
And
Wow.
to what you said, one of the absolute best things is being able to see people that you've got to work with and teach your knowledge to. And then, like, one of the happiest memories that I have is at NAPE, not this last year, but the year before. I was sitting in it was like the I mean, what, like the Four Seasons or whatever, and where it's just overflowing with people, and you
Yeah.
just can't get around. And I heard somebody going, "Professor Hopkins," and running across, and it was somebody from the online that I had never met in person that I was getting to see for the first time, and I will remember that, and that is
Yeah.
one of the like littlest but highlights of my
Yeah.
career. So I totally hear you. Whenever you get to see students and know that you made a difference, it really is heartfelt.
Yeah, it really does. It makes a huge difference. Not too often. A couple years ago, actually, I was at a nonprofit benefit for I can't even remember what now, but I sat down and this young woman was standing over here and I said, "Oh, there's room at our table. You can sit here." And I heard she turned around and she said, "Miss McCaskell."
Doesn't that feel good? I'm
And
telling you, it's
all my
wonderful.
friends said, "Miss
Miss
McCaskell."
McCaskell. That is too cute. I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What great experience. And that just, so are you doing adjunct professor with OU or with
Mm-mm.
UT Permian?
Nope.
No? Okay.
I'm on their advisory
On
board.
their on advisory. So you get to help
Yeah.
put the coursework and things together. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's very nice.
And I've been on AAPL's accreditation committee, which was important to me. How do we accredit people? Landman Scholarship Trust, giving away
Very
money to
nice.
kids who need it. That's a cool deal.
I love it. The
Yeah.
scholarship stuff's my favorite. That's
Yep.
perfect.
Mine too.
Not bad. And this is the main question that I had for Nancy. Nancy, you've already kind of said like maybe teaching, but if you had never taken a call, or you had never cut that ad out in the paper of this is what I'm gonna try this work, what do you think you would have gone into? Or what would you, looking back now, is there anything that you're like, if I hadn't have done oil and gas, I would have done this?
No, I have no idea. Maybe I'd be working at Wendy's or something because I
Hey,
couldn't find a job.
could do a
I
lot
just,
worse. I mean, those
yeah,
those Frosties ain't bad.
yeah, yeah. No, I think what I really wanted to do was I wanted to write books. That was what I really wanted to do.
There you go.
And so somehow we kind of write those every day.
I
We
agree.
got stories to tell and places to go. We just do it in a different way.
That's exactly right.
Well, I'm very envious of the both of you that you've been able to pursue those academic dreams or those aspirations. That is something that I feel like is still left in my life that I want to be able to have the opportunity to do, is to teach a course or to be a teacher or something along those lines. I think I would just love it.
I thought that I was, whenever OCU called me and they were like, "Do you want to teach this?" There was this flood of just kind of emotion of where I was like, I had told my parents for so long, I said, I don't want to be a teacher. And now I was going to get to call them up and tell them. And my father's 80, like in his 80s, and my mom's early 80s. And I was like, this is going to be a very emotional call. They always said that I would become a teacher. And so
Yeah.
got myself all, prepped up for it, and called and put him on speakerphone. And I said, hey, I just want to tell you that I've been asked to teach a class. And there was silence on the other end. And then my dad said, you don't know anything about putting together a lesson plan. And so it was a little bit, that brought me back down to earth a little bit, but still very sweet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 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 I bet they were really moved. And see, it happens. And Jerris, it's going to happen for you. I know this.
Sure.
The call is on its way right now.
That's exactly right.
You just need a pair of yellow wind pants.
There
guess
you go.
so.
That could help all of us probably.
Well, I
Yeah.
do get to teach the CPL review, but that's only a few times a year. And honestly, like as exhausting as those days are, it's the highlight of my calendar years, being able to go in that room and do that, and impart some knowledge and help people prepare for the next milestone that they're trying to achieve of getting their certification. But having more opportunities like that is definitely something that I get excited about.
Jerris, I remember watching you at the Denver Land Institute last year. And I saw, what was it, over 200 people sitting in these chairs at the Denver Land
It was like
Institute.
2,000.
It was like 2,000. That's
Come
right. I'm
on.
sorry. I misspoke. 2,000 people. And I was standing at the back watching all of them. And you said, okay, now we're going to try a little AI. I know you don't hear this, but everybody pull out your phone. And they did. And it was mesmerizing. There was complete silence except for you guiding everybody through what they needed to look at. And you can maybe you're not sitting in the kind of classroom you think you're supposed to sit in, but you're teaching people and changing their
Absolutely.
lives every day. I mean, every day. And it was so fun for me. I loved it. Really
People
cool.
will pick up their cell phones to actually learn and follow along when Jarrah speaks, and whenever I speak, they start checking their Instagram reels. That is true, I didn't even think about that, like, all 3 of us have really done the circuit of a lot of these different conferences
Yeah.
and, like, have been able to speak and to be able to know how to kind of hone your PowerPoint presentation or whatever. So, Nancy, do you have any more big speaking for, are you still out on the circuit? Are you kind of toning it back now? Are you looking forward to 26 by doing more?
I hope I get to do some more because I enjoyed it. That was a lot of fun. I'm at the Women in Energy Institute in
That's
September on a
September
yeah,
3rd, I think, or 25th. It's someplace
23rd.
around there. That's
Yeah,
right.
right around there.
Hotel Zaza, everybody.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
Hotel
right.
Zaza, gonna be great. Big crowd, all sorts of things, all sorts of great
Be a good one.
speakers. Everybody should be there.
Fantastic.
So I get to be on a panel for that. I'm looking forward to that.
Wonderful.
I think maybe people got a little tired of me last year, so we'll see.
We gotta keep it fresh, right? We gotta make
Yeah,
sure that
yeah.
what is it? The old saying, it says, how can they miss you if you're always there? So
That's right.
I always want to take a break for a few months and then be like, all right, got to keep that
Yeah, yeah,
stock
yeah.
high, you know?
That's exactly right.
So, what kind of things do you do for personal development? Do you read books? Do you attend classes? Do you have coaches? What do you like?
Think I think everybody I'm around is a coach for me that I learned from them, and I read almost anything I can put my hands on.
Cool.
I don't listen to a lot of things. I have friends, they're listening to something all the time, but I like to read. I like to hold things in my hand, and so I read constantly.
Fiction,
Who's a
nonfiction?
yeah, who's a
What style do you like?
Oh, I read everything. I read everything from, like, on my bookshelf right now is a book called Forgiveness. I've got Percival Everett's James. If you've not read that,
I'm
it's
not.
really good. And I went to college with him 100 years ago, so I thought, well, I'll have to read Percival's new book. So I read everything. I read 3 newspapers a day, and
This is where whenever we need to fact check something, we just need Nancy's number and
That's
just
right.
call her and just be like, what have you heard?
that means you gotta trust the newspapers if you're gonna fact
That's
check.
true. That is true. That's funny. So you are a physical book reader, not a Kindle or anything like that, right?
I
Like,
have a Kindle. I have a Kindle when I was traveling a lot last year and I had to carry a lot of heavy stuff. I thought I can't carry another heavy book, but I like to hold a book in my hands.
yeah, I've always heard like I had a Kindle for a little bit, but I kind of went down that same path of it's hard to dog ear the pages
It is. It is.
of a Kindle.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
That is
right.
too funny. That is what advice would you give? We always kind of like to talk about if there's the ebbs and flows of people getting into, like AAPL or getting into the profession. And we've seen, and we always talk about on the show too, of the show itself. For as much as we kind of laugh and drive at it, it caused a lot of people that didn't know anything about landmen to want to learn about landmen, and it may have pushed more people to sign up for AAPL or to think about that as maybe that was the little thing that clicked, and they now want to go to college for it. For somebody that's just getting into the profession, what advice would you give them?
My advice, and this would hold true for people not even in it yet, is that if you want to make a difference, and if you think about everything around you from your iPhone to the light switch on the wall to your computer to your speaker, whatever it is, and air conditioning matters to you and the future matters to you, then you should get involved in the business of energy, whether it's oil and gas or geothermal or nuclear, because if somebody were to shut all of that off, dark is awfully dark. I mean, it really is. It's awfully dark. And I think I've told a lot of people the story about Black Mountain Sand talking about the big inch and the little inch lines. And they were built in less than a year. World War II was raging, 9 billion barrels of oil the United States sent to Europe, and the Allies won the war. and 7 of those 9 billion barrels of oil came from Texas. Well, that changed the world. I mean,
That's
not
right.
not just in a little tiny way.
Hmm.
It
Huge.
changed the world. And whether, I know, we all know. Lots of people look at us and say, "Oil and gas, no, I don't. That's a dirty business. I don't want anything to do with it." Until you don't have electricity, or you live in a third world country and you're, cooking with dung or peat, and you die at 44 when you should live to be 90.
Yeah.
And so I think if we would all look at the morality of how to better the world, it's not that oil and gas can't get better. It can, and it will. Not that nuclear can't get better, or it will. But I'm so excited about, gosh, what will the future hold? How will we power all of this stuff we want? And that would be my advice. Don't be afraid. Jump into it. See if you like it.
I'm going to ask you a question that builds on that a little bit. So fill in the blank. Experienced landmen don't do enough.
Thinking.
Okay.
Think that we believe we know what's going to happen. And so we believe that the outcome is already written. And we need to think about the fact that it's not already written and that we can change that course. And if we would think a little more and be a little more introspective, to quote, Hamilton, and wait for it,
Mm-hmm.
then I think we might all be better at what we do. It's
I
not
think
that we're
that's
not smart and we're not thinkers and intelligence. I don't mean that kind of.
right.
We
Very
just,
thoughtful answer. No, that's incredibly thoughtful. I think we all the hustle and bustle of every day, and with everything like Jerris, everything that you're learning about AI and what we're all having to experience, and it's just this absolute, just fast paced world that is not slowing down at all. To be able to sit back and to give thought, give pause
yeah,
means a lot.
great question.
So from time to time, I'll be in a discussion or conversation, and sometimes people ask you about other people, what are they like, or who do you know, et cetera. And, you know, there's been occasions where I've been in a conversation and somebody has asked about Nancy McCaskell, or what do you know about Nancy? Or how would you describe Nancy? And one of the things that I always say is that Nancy is a forward thinker. And sometimes that response comes back, and I don't think you'll be offended by this, but sometimes the response comes back and they'll say, "Oh, do you mean for her age?"
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
say, "No, not for her age, just period. Like, she is a forward thinker."
I love to hear that. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I always say is both of my grandmothers lived to be 99. And I asked
Wow.
my mother's mother one time, I said, "So, Granny," she was probably 92 or 3 at the time. I said, "Granny, do you feel old?" And she said, Nancy?" I was probably 22 at the time. She said, Nancy?" She said, "I feel the same way I felt when I was your age. I just scare myself when I look in the mirror." And I can say that. I think, who is that? But I've always loved, and I hope that's true. I've always loved new things. That's why AI interests me so much. I don't want to sit around and have somebody say, she's too old, she can't do it. I did a little work in wind, a little work in solar. I'm doing a little work in geothermal. I want to be a part of the future. And I know all of this is linear and that
Yeah.
time always runs out somewhere along the road. But I hope that I'll still have those instances. I remember when somebody said, "We're going to drill the first horizontal well in the Barnett Shale, and we're going to go down a mile and we're going to try to go out a mile." And I thought, they're dreaming. It'll never happen. Thank goodness people dream, There we are. And so what are these dreams going to give us in the future? I want to latch onto that wing and let it carry me as far as it'll go.
That is
So that's nice of
beautiful.
you to say.
Yeah.
That is
Well,
absolutely beautiful.
And with that attitude, you've had a long career where you've been able to see a lot of people have dreams, and you've been
Yeah.
able to see some people say, oh, no, that'll never happen. Or some people say, oh, I hope that happens. But you've been able to gain a lot of experience and understanding that some things are going to happen whether we want them to or not. And it's because of those people who dream. So
Yep.
what is it that you're seeing right now?
Yeah, gosh, Jerris, that's hard. I don't think we have any idea. I attended kind of a conference a couple of summers ago, and they said that the people used to gauge their lives and their learnings on the idea of generations. So every 100 years there was something. And all these really smart scientist people said that's not true anymore. We're moving generations in about 18 months. 18 months! 18 months. I don't know. I don't know what that will look like. I look at, kind of talking about geothermal for a minute. They say, oh, yeah, it's like a radiator beneath the surface of the earth. Really? Like a radiator? Who even remembers radiators? I do. That's for my age. I remember them. But that's it. I don't have any idea, but can hardly wait to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody not long ago, and they said something very similar, and it was an oil and gas professional, and they said, "We've seen so much over these years. Like, isn't this fun, first of all? And can you believe that we got lucky enough to be a part of it?"
I know.
I think that even outside like the oil and gas space of just being able to see to exactly what you were saying, Nancy, of to be able to see the creative thinkers finding different ways for us to do different things. And you will not hear me, you won't hear me to talk too like backwards about like electrical cars or different ideas just because people are coming up with these different ideas
Yeah.
and they're trying and we all are here to experience it, good, bad, and the ugly, but we're here and we're having a blast doing it. So I really appreciate what you're saying with that.
Yeah. I was in the, Oklahoma History Center
Hmm.
when I came up to talk to OCAPL. There was nobody else there, and so I milled around and wandered through the museum, and I walked upon there's a little placard in the space portion of the Oklahoma History Center, and it had a little sheet of paper up on the wall that had a picture of our iPhones, and right beside it, Apollo 11, picture of Apollo 11. And underneath it, it said, "This thing we carry around with us every day has 100,000 times the computing power of all the computers in NASA and all the computers on board Apollo 11 that took someone to the moon. 100,000 times. And we sent somebody to space in aluminum foil with something that was 100,000 times less than this.
Isn't that something?
It's amazing to
It's
me.
it's absolutely amazing. And to think Jarris just watches videos of people getting hit in the head with freaking shovels. That's all he's using it for. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's a fun ride, and number one, I really hope, like what we talked about early on, I hope that you do know the impression that you've made on so many people's lives. I mean, it really is staggering for the oil and gas industry and for how long you have been a part of helping shape it and push it forward and to help people understand their path. I am so proud, number one, to know you, and number two, I think I speak for a lot of people in the entire industry. We're so fortunate to get to be a part of your journey along the way. So I appreciate your time today, and this has just been a real pleasure.
Been a pleasure for me, and that's awfully kind of you. I'll take it, but it's
It-
awfully kind.
Drew is really good at this.
Eh,
We do have one other question for you. So we always
no,
give our guests a chance to promote something, whether it
yeah.
be their business that they have or a service that they offer or expertise that they deliver. Do you have anything that you would like people to know that this is what you're doing, this is what you're working on, and you would like more of it?
I always like more work. Everybody does, right? Like that. But here's what I'd just like to say is just love what you do. That's what I'd like to leave with. Love what you do and love what you do. And if you don't, go do something else. You can always change your mind. And if somebody's afraid to do that, they need to do it. That's what I'd like to leave with is be bold.
Be bold, people. That's what
Yep.
Nancy leaves us with. If you're looking up to be able to get in contact with Nancy, Nancy, is LinkedIn probably the best way for people to get in contact with you if they had any
LinkedIn's
questions or
great.
anything?
Yep. Yep, yep, yep. That'd be
Check
perfect.
check Nancy out on LinkedIn. If you're going to any one of the upcoming conventions, the Women in Energy conference in September, please make sure that you go up and you just shake her hand and just tell her just what a joy she is. I'm always going to be able to see her at NAPE and so many of the other conferences going forward. We would absolutely like to thank our sponsors of Novus Consulting. How long have I been here? Good night. We've been talking energy.
It's a good thing you're not in their office right now.
My gosh, it's a good thing we paid for this. Yeah, nice studio here. Roland AI, fantastic AI land program that you can find out so much more about that online. Scramble, it's a great program for performance management. Anchored Innovation, still we're not sure what they do, but we'll figure it out later.
Never heard of
So
them.
I am so happy this was such a good episode, and thank you all so much for listening. For Drew Hopkins, Jerris Johnson, Nancy McCaskell, thank you all, and we'll see you next time on the Real Deal Landman Show.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks.